Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy Uncle Bootz here. And first of all, I just want to thank you guys for actually tuning in and listening to this Dallas Cowboys, mostly a Dallas Cowboys channel. We talk a lot about the Dallas Cowboys, my favorite team. But we do also break down some of the NFC East and break down some of the things that are going on in the National Football League. Right now, primarily, we're going to talk about the status of the NFC East and the status of our beloved Dallas Cowboys. So it looks like the Cowboys and Eagles will play each other on Sunday night, 8:20, Cowboys Stadium. The Eagles will bring in a 3-8 record, and the Cowboys will sport a 5-6 record. And both of these teams have turned. When we first went a couple weeks ago, we played the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys seemed to have it was a breaking point for both teams. Looked like whoever lost that game was going to spiral and go in a terrible direction that would lead to some firings, some changes via personnel or be it coaching changes. And fortunately for the Cowboys, they won that game. The Cowboys put Michael Vick out, and I think that was a very fortunate thing. Not that I celebrate injuries, but it didn't look like the Cowboys were stopping Vick. He drove right down the field first drive and got put out of the game, and Nick Foles came in, and the rest was history. But it looks like from that point on, the Eagles went in a terrible direction, and they're facing a lot of decisions that are going to be made that are going to affect obviously the fans and the organization. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to kind of give a little synopsis of the NFC East, and I believe, and I've believed this for forever, since I was a football born, let's say. That the NFC East is the best division in football. I'm sure there are years when it's not, and you may make that argument that this year it's not. But I disagree usually, because the Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, and Redskins beat up on each other all year long, and a lot of players are out. And because of the confrontational games that we played with each other, and then other teams finally get a chance to play us after we're banged up. But at any rate, we'll start at the cream of the crop. I have to be fair and give the Giants their credit, their due. They've been the model organization for a few years now. Tom Coughlin has done a tremendous job getting players to play, and I think Tom Coughlin, what he does best, better than anything else, better than any other coach, is get his team to play well even when there are injuries. That has been the total opposite of what the Cowboys do. If there is an injury, the Cowboys are going to show their deficiency in that area. So if we're missing a running back, Cowboys aren't going to be able to run the football. If Tony Romo's out, we're not going to throw the football. You know, well, if DeMarcus Ware's out, we're not going to get a pass rush. That's generally how it is. The one with the Cowboys, the one thing the Giants have always been able to do is they've been able to overcome injuries and still perform. I mean, if you heard that, you know, Hakeem Nicks, and you've seen it this year. Hakeem Nicks isn't playing. You know, Victor Cruz might not play. All these guys are all banged up, and they go out there with Ramsey's Barden. They go out there and find guys, Ruben Randall. These guys make plays. You know, these guys will come in and make plays. Prince Amukamara was banged up, and now he's starting to show some life. He's made a couple plays for them when guys were injured. These guys always step up, so I do have to give them their credit when it's due. I mean, being fair. The Giants are right now the team that we're all chasing in the NFC East, but we're not too far behind, and depending on what happens this week and over the next 5 weeks or so, will determine where the Giants end up, where the Cowboys, the Skins, and the Eagles, where we all end up. So, talking about the Skins, the quarterback, RG3, I mean, you could see it in college. unless you were biased, you can see that he was going to be a phenomenal player, and he was going to be the type of player that would actually elevate team play amongst everybody. You're talking about a team with injuries. You're talking about a team with some not the greatest quality of players on the team. You know, they're not they don't have the best linebacking core. They don't have the best offensive line. They don't have the best secondary. Don't have the best wide receivers. You know what? Nobody knew who Alfred Morris was, unless you watched some preseason games of football. Nobody knew who he was. Everybody was drafting Roy Helu and all these other guys, and nobody knew who he was. But guess what? He ended up being somebody. The coaching staff looks great, and think of this. When the St. Louis Rams traded away all those picks, received all those picks and traded away their first-round draft pick, received their first-round draft pick, pardon me, and received all those picks and said, we don't want to take Robert Griffin III, everybody thought that the Redskins gave up way too much. It was a lot. But guess what? If you look now, you think the Redskins stole him from the Rams, because the Rams haven't gotten quarterback play like the Redskins have in RG3. Bradford hasn't played like that since he's been in the league. He hasn't been that important to the National Football League. Bradford hasn't been an important figure in the National Football League. RG3 came in right away and has shown how important he's going to be and what kind of player he's going to be in the long haul. Just a great player. It was a great move. Shanahan and that organization deserve a lot of credit. But at the same time, they got some growing pains they're going to have to go through. They got a lot of player personnel they got to evaluate, etc. But they're doing a fantastic job. And yes, they are right in the hunt. And we'll talk about the Cowboys next, because they're up and down. The organization's up and down. The players are up and down. Injuries. The most embarrassing thing about being a Cowboy fan right now is the fact that this team is undisciplined. They can't go on a different snap count. They can't mix snap counts up. They're holding. They're going off sides. And a lot of the penalties that bother me, if you're holding because of a reason, because you got beat. You got, physically beat at that position. If you're holding on defense, well, it's because you're trying to slow the game down, and if you're a defensive player, a cornerback holding a wide receiver, you're probably trying to keep up with him, and you're not playing the right technique, and you're maybe just not as good as the wide receiver you're trying to cover. But when you have not enough, too many guys on the field, tight ends and players going offside before the ball's even snapped, delayed games, that's unacceptable. That's a bad product of football. It's a bad product that we're watching and rooting for, and that's coaching. And I've been talking about coaching for my previous show that I used to do, which was bootsports.podbean.com. All I talked about was coaching. There's bad coaching in the National Football League, bad coaching in Dallas. We talked about that. Coaches, a lot of coaches don't have these issues. A lot of good coaches don't have issues. There's times when if you're going to be, on a drive that you need, a big drive that you need to win the game, you're supposed to be focused there. These guys are lining up in the wrong spot, not focused, going offside, doing things they don't need to do. But at any rate, lastly, we'll talk about the Eagles. And the Eagles have been the laughingstock of the National Football League now for 2 years. Okay? The kiss of death was when Vince Young said the dream team comments and all that stuff. That team, this Eagle team, is bad. They're badgered. They're beat up. Whatever adjective you want to use to describe how bad the Eagles are. They're a bad football team. And the players they brought in gave a lot of money. Justin Babin. They gave money to the cornerback from Oakland, Nnamdi Asomugha, gave him a boatload of money, and that guy just basically is stealing money every time he's out on the field. And they did us a favor, us Cowboy fans. We were done a favor by the Eagles taking him from us, because they stole him from Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones thought he had a deal in place and thought he had Nnamdi coming to Dallas. Thank God he didn't, because Brandon Carr has been so much of a better football player than Nnamdi has. It's not even close. And we asked Brandon Carr to do a lot more things by himself than what they ask of Nnamdi Asomugha with the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles are going to be looking for, right now they're in the talent evaluating business. They're looking and going through their team and trying to find out what players are going to be there, what coaches are going to be there, you know, who's not going to be there. They're not necessarily putting the best players on the field. They're trying to evaluate and see which guys that they want to carry over to next year. So they're focused on football. That's one of the reasons why Babin's gone, their defensive end, who had 18.5 sacks last year, was a terror. These guys are taking off, man. They're not ready. They don't want to play football. That's the reason that the Dallas Cowboys cannot go into this game Sunday night and lay an egg out here. This team doesn't want to play. They're ready to pack it in. Deshaun Jackson's on injured reserve. Okay? You got Evan Matthews, their right guard. I'm talking about the Philadelphia Eagles here. Probably going to play center for Dallas Reynolds, who's out. They lost Jason Peters earlier in the year, who was the best offensive lineman in football, if you ask me. And they're just been they got guys left and right just dropping off. Players not performing well, and guys that are probably performing the best that they can, but they're just not good enough on that offensive line. You know, so that's been a big problem for the Eagles, and it's been like that for a couple of years though. LaShawn McCoy's out. He's not going to play. Deshaun Jackson's on IR. Michael Vick won't play. So these are some of the guys, you know, obviously Babin's not going to be there because he's now with Jacksonville. He was cut, and Jacksonville picked him up. So these are some of the things, some of the weaknesses that they're going to have, the Eagles. The Cowboys are going to have to take advantage of some of these issues. My favorite player in the whole league, as everybody who knows me, if you've been tuning into my previous shows on my previous website, I'm a big Romo fan, and I know that Romo's a lightning rod. So I know a lot of people don't like Romo. A lot of Cowboy fans are ridiculous when they talk about they want another quarterback. They want to draft a quarterback, or they want to sign one in free agency, or start Kyle Orton, the backup quarterback. These guys, if you're asking for stuff like that, you definitely aren't appreciating how long it took us to stumble upon a quarterback like Tony Romo, who, by the way, is going to be one touchdown away from breaking Troy Aikman's touchdown record, and you know, it'll be the all-time Cowboy. He's going to end up with every all-time Cowboy record. Now, some of you naysayers and whatever will say, well, he never won a championship. Well, I say, you know what? He didn't. And he might not. And he probably won't win one. But he didn't have the talent to win one. And you guys can all say he did, but he's had one 1,000-yard rusher since he's been a Cowboy fan. And, you know, running the football is an important part of the game. Ironically, that's what Emmett did for Troy. You know, he was a workhorse for Troy. Tony's never had a dependable running back. And speaking of unreliable running backs, DeMarco Murray should play this week for the Cowboys. And he's been unreliable. He's been injured. He's been banged up his career. Those were the questions on DeMarco Murray coming out of Oklahoma, was would he be reliable? Well, guess what? We're going to have to rely on him for the rest of these 5 games. They're going to have to get 5 games from DeMarco Murray in order to have a chance at a playoff berth. So these are some things that Romo has not had the talent. He's had some good players on the team. You know, you got to remember, Troy Aikman he was decorated with Hall of Famers. You know, maybe, you know, he had some very good players, very good coaches. Romo hasn't been blessed with that. You know, so I don't know that, you know, Witten will go into the Hall of Fame. Ware will go into the Hall of Fame. Those are Hall of Fame players. That's probably it. That's all the guys that Romo will play with that'll go into the Hall of Fame in the prime of his career. And Romo's a very good quarterback. I know he's not the best in the league, but he's a very good quarterback. So going forward, and we're going to have to put all this on Romo's back. Romo's going to have to carry us in order to go anywhere. Romo's going to have to take us there. Now, he's going to hope he can lean on DeMarco Murray, but he's going to have to take us there. And you know, if Romo, the only reason why we're in these games is because Romo's there. So the injuries, we're going to get back Jay Ratliff this week. We're going to get back Miles Austin, DeMarco Murray, as I mentioned. We're getting back some big-time players that are going to help us win this game. We're also going to get back Ryan Cook, a backup center who plays about as well as our starting center played. Maybe not as great, but almost there. So Mackenzie Bernardo can shift back to right guard, and Tyron Smith will be playing left tackle. He'll be back. So our offensive line will have some familiarity amongst themselves. So this game looks like, it looks like there's no chance for the Eagles to win this game. No chance whatsoever. It looks like the Cowboys should run away with this game, and I'm expecting them to do that. I know a lot of these, I listen to a lot of shows, they're not expecting the Cowboys. No, oh, you're crazy. It's a division game. Don't ever. I expect the Cowboys to run away with this game. If you want to be anybody when the playoffs come, you got to run away with this game. This is a game you have to have. So we're going to be about as healthy as we're going to be. Now, I miss my two inside backers, Bruce Carter and Sean Lee. We won't be able to replace them. Ernie Sims and Dan Connor, those guys will probably man the inside linebacker position, and they'll probably do an adequate job. We'll probably give up some running yards inside to Bryce Brown, who's the running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, who, in LaShawn McCoy's absence last week, rushed for 187 yards or so and had 2 fumbles. But the guy played well. He's a big back. I'm a little familiar with him because he was a Tennessee volunteer for a minute, and that's another that's my favorite college football team. But he played with them for a little bit, and he was a highly sought after high school recruit coming out of college, coming out of high school. So we're getting healthy. The Cowboys, Eagles are actually more banged up right now. Just as banged up or more banged up than they've been all year. We got to be able to stop the Eagles from passing the ball if Deshaun Jackson's not going to be in the game. I mean, if you're going to pick your point. If you want to double the tight end every once in a while, or double or roll coverage to Macklin or any of these if you want to do that, that's fine. But this team should not get out here. And I'm not expecting Morris Claiborne to get abused against the Eagles like he did against Riley Cooper. I'm not expecting that again. Claiborne is going to be a stud. And speaking of studs, this Cowboy team, I'm not looking forward too much to like next year. I don't want you to think I'm doing that. But I'm going to tell you, if I peek around the corner, the Cowboys next year are going to have a lot of talent. And I mean young talent, not paid for free agent talent. I'm talking about some young, talented players that we drafted, and the coaches made good decisions on some of these players. Bruce Carter was playing just as good as Sean Lee played when he was out there, and that's a huge sign for this Cowboy team. They drafted Bruce Carter. They thought he'd be a good player, and it looks like he's going to be up. I'm telling you, he's going to be chomping at the bit, him and Sean Lee, when they get out there on that field. I can't wait to see them next year. I know we still got this year, but we got some young guys that are coming in. Look at these wide receivers that you've seen over the last couple of weeks. Look at Dwayne Harris. Look at Cole Beasley. These are guys, I'm telling you, these guys can make plays. And they're going to be out there, and they're going to be, I just want to see us get a chance to go out there with some of these young guys, give them a chance because they're explosive players. So we also drafted Danny Cole, and out of Virginia Tech, pretty tall, slot kind of wide receiver. And I want to see him next year. So he's hurt this year. We got a couple guys that were hurt in the draft. I understand all that, but I want to see them guys next year. I think we got a very good chance of being a better football team next year. And I said that earlier this year. I said this ain't about this year. It's about next year and the year after. I think that's when we're gonna make our run. But we're almost in the mix here this year. So looking at We talked about some of the Eagles' organizational issues that they have. They're gonna have some. They're gonna have some growing pains. They're gonna get a new coach in there. It probably won't be Gruden. It may be Holmgren. Now, these names that you're hearing, these Grudens and Holmgrens, if Garrett don't get his stuff together and get these guys in line and playing, if they don't start playing respectable football, these guys names are going to be rumored around Dallas. Because Jerry Jones is not going to sit back and waste time. He doesn't have time. I don't care if you're looking at the playoff window or the window of opportunity. Jerry Jones is not a young man. He doesn't have time on the planet Earth. So he's got to get this done. These things have to happen. He's got to get this organization in line. We have talented enough players to make the playoffs. So Garrett will be judged over these last 5 games. I mean, he's going to be looked at with a fine-tooth comb. So we still want to take this one game at a time. One game. I don't want to look ahead. I know if you look ahead, things look real good. Pretty much most of the quarterbacks we're going to be facing all for the rest of the year are rookie quarterbacks, and maybe Charlie Batch, maybe Leftwich. I mean, that lines up beautifully. I mean, it's been a rookie. I mean, now look, we still got RG3. We lost to him on Thanksgiving, but we got him again. But these are you got to be expected to win some of these games. I mean, these are rookie quarterbacks. You got to be expected to win most of them, if not all of them. So there might be some light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I hope it's not a train, but it could be. But there's some light, I think, at the end of this tunnel. So the Eagles right now, like I said, they're not trying to win football games. They're trying to evaluate their team so they can hand off this team to another head coach. You know, or determine, even if they do want to keep Andy, which I totally doubt. But they got to find out the direction, the players, the scheme, you know, what direction are they going in? So the Cowboys have to go out and beat this depleted Eagle team. I think they got to beat them bad, but they got to, because they got to show that they are above the mess that's going on in Philly right now. And I think they will. I think they will go out, and I think they will, especially if DeMarco Murray is healthy and he's playing. When I was talking about the light at the end of the tunnel, guys, if you look at some of these teams, like our record, the Cowboys' record right now, we're 5-6. Seattle's 6-5, but they play Chicago this week, who's 8-3. The Saints just got dropped to 5-7, losing to that 11-1 Atlanta Falcons team that people keep saying they're not that good. They'll wait till they're 15-1, and then they'll say, "Oh, see, they lost this game." Man, the Falcons are a good football team. Let's not act like they're not a good football team. You don't win 11 out of 12 games in the National Football League and be a bad football team. They're a good football team. They deserve all the accolades they're getting. Now, look, their quarterback, Matt Ryan, he's got to go out there and win some playoff games, too. Nobody talks about the fact that Matt Ryan has yet to win a playoff game in his career. And he was actually drafted to win playoff games. Tony Romo was stumbled upon and now expected to win playoff games. He got a nickname, Matty Ice. He hasn't won a game in the playoffs. It's been awful, actually. Not even good. So, but anyway, going back to what I was saying, some of these teams that we're competing with for possibly that 6th playoff spot, you know, we like to win a division, but the 6th playoff spot, the Lions are going to be playing the Colts. Colts are 7-4. Maybe you don't believe in the Colts, and the Lions could go out and win that game. But still, they got 7 losses. You got Green Bay sitting here at 7-4. They're playing Minnesota. Minnesota's 6-5. Minnesota could be 6-6. And their schedule, they still got another game against Chicago. They got a game against the Texans. They got some, their schedule. They got some tough teams. Tampa, we're competing with them for that 6th spot. They're playing Denver. Denver's 8-3, playing well, you know. And the Giants are 7-4, playing against the Redskins. And listen, the Redskins could have won that first game they played against the Giants. They could have. They didn't, but they could have. You know, so this isn't a guaranteed victory for the Giants, you know, or a guaranteed victory for the Redskins. So either way, if the Giants lose and we win, you know, we're right back in that hunt again. But we can backdoor it, or we can get up top. You know, so we got some options on winning these winning these games and competing in the playoffs. What I need Cowboy fans to do is be real. You know, don't set these crazy expectations for yourself. Don't go out here barking crazy. I mean, this is not a championship football team, this Cowboy team. It's not a championship football team. They haven't showed it all year. They haven't showed the ability to step on the necks of anybody. Just understand that each week, that they're not going to win. They're not going to be beat up on these good teams. They're going to go out and lose to teams that they're supposed to lose to. And for the most part, they'll beat teams that they're supposed to beat. But all in all, I think that we got a shot to do something. And I know it's the Eagles, and I know they're bad, but you got to beat them down. Beat them down. I don't care if they're bad. Beat them down. Win that game, beat them down, and move forward. Get out of that game healthy and move forward. You know, I always talk about the fact that we haven't had a 1,000-yard back, and I hear these crazy theories of 1,000 yards. I hear people say it all the time, but 1,000 yards ain't what it used to be in the National Football League. Are you kidding me? I looked up because since everybody's rushing for 1,000 on every team, I said, well, if that's the case, 1,000 yards is less than half the league. If you look at the last 5 or 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, half the league rushes for 1,000 yards. The other half doesn't. So if 1,000 yards is so easy, how come 80% of the teams in the National Football League aren't rushing for 1,000 yards? And how come, if they're so easy to do, how come the Dallas Cowboys can't find a running back to rush for 1,000 yards? You know, those theories that people say, oh, 1,000 yards, it's not what it used to be. It is what it used to be. I know it's a passing league, but it's 1,000-yard back it's not easy to find those guys. It's not. Look at some of the guys that are rushing for 1,000 yards right now. Jamal Charles, you know, guys that have done it, guys that will probably do it. Ray Rice, LaShawn McCoy. These guys are second-round picks. These guys aren't guys that everybody thought was going to be a good running back coming out. They weren't the first running back taken off the board. So they're hard to find. The Ravens got lucky that, you know, look at Maurice Jones-Drew, some of the best backs in the league. These teams were lucky that these guys fell in the draft. Lucky. So I don't want to hear people talking, you know, 1,000 yards ain't what it used to be anymore. That's not the new benchmark. The new benchmark should be 1,200 yards. Are you nuts? People aren't. Every team in the league isn't rushing for 1,000. So and Cowboy fans, we're definitely not. Julius rushed for 1,002 yards or 1,030 yards, and then the last person to do that for the Cowboys was Emmitt Smith. That's it. So Troy Hambrick was close. He had like 990 something. I mean, come on, man. Look at the names we're throwing out here. You know? So, and let me tell you this. This is my last thing. I'm going to end on this too. Because I got a couple theories and these things are popping up in my head. The offensive line isn't good. The running back makes the offensive line. You find that out. We'll run out this same offensive line with DeMarco Murray, and all of a sudden, there's holes. There's lanes. We had a terrible offensive line last year going into that Rams game last year. Remember, we couldn't run the football, guys. Remember, we would have ran the ball against the Detroit Lions last year when we were up 31-7. We would have ran the ball, but we couldn't run the football because we didn't have a good offensive line. But guess what? We had a back rush for 250 yards last year on that same offensive line. The back makes the offensive line. The offensive line doesn't make the back. It never has. It never will. When Emmitt ran for his 18,000 yards, whatever he ran for, when he ran for that offensive line, every player on that offensive line was a second-round draft pick or worse. And Emmitt, people say, oh, well, Emmitt had the best offensive line ever, so he should have. Anybody could have ran through that. When anybody not named Emmitt ran through that line, they didn't do Derek Lassick. None of them guys got any. Sherman Williams, they didn't get any of the yards Emmitt got. Any of them. Chris Warren, I seen guys running through that line. They didn't look like Emmitt because Emmitt made the line. It's the same way with backs, man. Last year or 2 years ago when Tashard Choice got all them carries against the Ravens, all of a sudden we didn't think we'd be able to run the football, and then Tashard Choice got back there, and all of a sudden it was like, wow. Against the Steelers, the back makes the line. So right now the offensive line is bad because Felix has poor vision. Poor. His vision, I shouldn't say it's poor. It's just nowhere near DeMarco Murray's vision. He don't have that cutback ability that DeMarco has. He doesn't have the vision, the sight. He don't see the safety. He can't anticipate where the safety's going to be coming down. So sometimes he gets hit hard and fumbles the ball because he doesn't recognize the safety. So you got to locate the safety as a running back. There's certain things you got to look for in open field, but you also got to set the line up when you run, and that's what DeMarco does real well. So I'm interested to see us hand this ball off to DeMarco Murray. I want to see Tony Romo break Emmett's record because I think, I'm sorry, break Aikman's record because I think Tony deserves that. He is the, and I take a lot of heat for this, and I should because I understand narrow-mindedness. When people look at like fantasy football, it's all about, you know, who scored the most points. It's not necessarily about who's the best. But Romo is the best quarterback that I've seen in Dallas. The best. And I know Troy could have done this, and Troy was decorated with these. And I love Troy. Troy was awesome when we had Troy. I didn't see Don Meredith. I didn't see Staubach. I didn't see those guys. But he's the best quarterback I've seen in Dallas because of what he's asked to do, the angles that he has to throw the ball, the poorest offensive lines that he's had, the lack of a run game. He is the best that I've seen do it, and that's the reason he's shattering every quarterback record in Dallas. And if everybody's going to do it, oh, well, it's a passing league, then guess what? Then the next guy, just draft the next guy and let him break every record if that's the case. It's not happening, dude. So we're going to win with Romo, and we're not going to win without him. And if you got a better backup plan than Tony Romo that's going to be available next year or in the draft this year, on my YouTube page, I want you guys to hit me up at the bottom, leave comments, and you can definitely disagree and argue with anything that I've said because I'm not 100% right all the time, but I will back up and substantiate myself to you guys, and I appreciate all you guys for listening and tuning into the show. Once again, you can follow me on Twitter, Jerry_Holman. That's my Twitter handle. You can definitely request me as a friend on Facebook. My name is Jerry Holman. I go by Uncle Bootz. Hopefully I hear from you guys. I got my partner affiliate, Chatterbox. His Twitter handle is Sideline Chatter, and he's been I know he's been a little behind with work and everything like that, but he's at sidelinechatter.podbean.com. We'll probably do a couple more shows later on about various other sports as well as football. He's a big-time Eagle fan, so if you want to hear some good Eagle stuff, you can go right to sidelinechatter.podbean.com. And once again, I'm your host here. This is the Boot Camp Sports Show. And definitely comment, guys. And if you like what I said, definitely like it. I know I'm going to get a lot of dislikes because I'm a Cowboy fan, but I'll take them too. Hopefully we'll have a good week this week, guys. Take care.